Let's head out to Utah, to the house that Kyle Whittingham really built.
All right.
This is our guy, Scott Pioli, out there at the University of Utah. Scott, I know you're doing some stuff there with the team out there, but let's first talk about this Brandon Aiyuk situation, which has dominated headlines and our show the last 2 days. Aiyuk, a very good, talented wide receiver. There are salary cap things that the Niners have to take care of, and yet it's still hovering over the team. As one of the great executives of the league, what would you have done in this situation, and what are your thoughts currently for San Francisco?
You know, Peter, it's always difficult to know what should be done and what you should be doing because there's so much that's going on behind the scenes in conversations between the agent, the player, the head coach, the general manager, the assistant coaching staff. Because the biggest part of this is maintaining and sustaining relationships because Aiyuk may end up staying there. He may go elsewhere. You don't know where he's going to be. So the importance of the relationships and the solidarity between the general manager, the head coach, the assistant coaches, the coordinators, to make sure that the people that aren't negotiating the contract maintain those relationships just in case he comes back. That is so critical. You know, we went through a situation that was different than this, but very similar. Way back in 2006, Deion Branch at the New England Patriots, he had just come off the Super Bowl MVP year. He was going into the final year of his contract. He didn't like what the base salary was going to be. So instead of holding in like Aiyuk did, that wasn't a thing that was able to be done back then because players would get fined more. Deion Branch held out. It became very messy. It became very complicated. We eventually had to get to a situation because we couldn't get the contract done where we gave teams permission to talk to him and his agent. They did that, and we had to part ways. Now, the interesting thing is this. Aiyuk may end up somewhere else, but they still have to maintain those relationships just like when players go away and treat them respectfully because your entire locker room is watching.
Scott, we got to watch the Detroit Lions yesterday who were at Giants camp, and I was a little bit frustrated by this, what I would call this palpable longing by some in the media or just fans for the Lions to come back down to earth and go back to being the losers that we thought they were for 30 years. And I think that they're not built that way, specifically the head coach, but really the roster, the young roster, the roster that was created by the guys upstairs in Detroit. What do you make of the Lions right now, specifically of how they're built and the sustainability they're going to be going into this year, hopefully?
Kyle, I love this point and I love this question. And before we even talk about Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, who are the top leaders that we see, you have to talk about Sheila Ford Hamp. She is the one that hired Dan Campbell. She is the one that hired Brad Holmes. She has a sensibility of leadership that she brought to that organization that it was missing for years and years. And she allowed Dan Campbell to come in and Brad Holmes to come in, bringing guys like Ray Agnew. But she also, what I think that she did was very different. She encouraged the presence and the humility and the wisdom of having someone like Chris Spielman there. And when you get that group of people together like that have an aligned values for the type of players and aligned values in terms of what kind of culture they want to have, you put those things together, that gives you a chance because then you have the alignment creates this chemistry between the leadership group so they can go out, find the right kind of players that match, but they also can be developed. And right now their player development is pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, Scott, you know, you were talking about the Patriots earlier, and I know you were there at the Patriots camp. I mean, it's a new era. You know Gerard Mayo very well. You drafted him back in 2008. What was it like to see him running the show? I mean, what's that been like?
Akbar, it was interesting. You know, when we drafted Gerard in 2008, we knew that he had certain leadership skills. We knew that he had an alpha personality. But in that first year, we still had Brewski. We had Mike Vrabel. We had Larry Izzo, guys that he learned how to be a professional NFL type of leader. So when I watched Gerard at practice and watched him interact and interface not only with the players, but his assistant coaches, which is really important, and to make sure that they knew what he was expecting, I wasn't surprised. And this is going to be very interesting for Gerard because I know he's a tremendous leader. I know he's very smart. He's not just football smart. He's a very smart person. So to me, what we're going to have to watch and show some grace, if you were a follower of the Patriots, is this is his first time doing it, and there's going to be mistakes made. But as I watched him the other day, I also know that he not only has the strength and the humility when he makes those mistakes, he's still going to do a good job. He just has to be given some grace. But it was great seeing Gerard in that role. Really, really cool.
Scott, only in a place like New England that has such high expectations do you have to show the coach some grace, because you know what people are going to want to demand of him. Scott, we have our eyes trained always on what players are doing during training camp. But GMs, how do they spend August? Is it to prep for the new season? Is it putting a bow on the off season? What are they focusing on right now?
Jamie, there's a whole lot of things. They're even working on the 2025 draft right now. They've got a scouting department and a personnel department that they're deploying across the country to be at colleges like I am right now and to be working towards the 2025 draft. But they're also working on watching preseason games in person, because at the end of the training camp and the preseason games, there is going to be an influx of players that hit the street, hit free agency, and are available. So part of what the GM has to be thinking about is what's going on with this team now. Usually you'd know who your first 40 players are going to be. Then you're thinking about who 40 through 53 are going to be. But here's the thing that's really important as a GM, and that I'm not sure that we pay enough attention to, is right now every team's salary cap is being shown as the top 51 contracts. When the final roster reductions come, you are now counting the top 50, all 53 contracts, every player that had an injury and has had an injury settlement, every player that's on injury reserve, and your 16-player practice squad. So teams where they're at on the cap, those numbers actually go up at the final roster reduction. So you're having to manage the cap, but as you're thinking about who's going to be on your team, you're thinking about the value that they're going to bring to your team, whether it's a starter or a backup, a special teams player, and how much can they cost you against the cap. But also, one of the things we always stay on top of, we always want to have a little bit of extra room in case a really good veteran player gets released by another team. So this becomes a very important time to prepare for player acquisition at the end of training camp.
Absolutely. Scott, we so appreciate your work. Enjoy Mr. Whittingham today. Enjoy Utah, and give us some thoughts when you get back on the show. We can't wait to have you. Thanks so much for joining Good Morning Football.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And I'm glad you brought up Kyle, because he's one of the best college football coaches I've ever seen. Phenomenal job he's done here.
Okay, wow.
It's awesome.
That's awesome, Scott. We always appreciate